Welcome into the Backroads Build podcast. I'm Ben, and today we are talking about the outdoors, which, shocker, that's what this podcast is about. But the difference today is we are joined by two outdoor social media gurus who have not just lived these outdoor experiences, but they've also captured it and have created content that has garnered the attentions of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people and have built themselves a quite large following. And so we're going to talk to these two about their adventures that they've had, the challenge of doing the technical side of actually shooting, which a lot of times they're doing by themselves, alongside trying to get the content and get the stuff they need to do in those videos out. And we also go in a little bit about what their personal preference is between the majestic mountains of BC and the winding lakes of Ontario. And honestly, their answer isn't as cut and dry as you think it would be. It's actually kind of interesting. So all of that is on the way, but first we would like to remind you to give us a like, a review, to subscribe if you're watching to this on YouTube. It helps us to continue to grow, expand, and continue bringing you all of the stories and adventures that we do on this podcast that revolve around Northern Ontario. And of course, none of this would be possible without the help of our sponsors, and today's lead sponsor is Twigs Coffee Roasters.
NorthBayEcho is proud to partner with Twigs Coffee Roasters, a part of the community since 1995. Twigs offers a wide selection of quality beans, fresh roasted in-house every day. Find your favorite specialty drinks at our espresso bar. Rejuvenate with freshly squeezed juice or treat yourself to mouth-watering selections from our gourmet deli. And don't forget our irresistible fresh baked goods, including uncompromising gluten-free options. Twigs has 5 locations to serve you, from North Bay to Sturgeon Falls to Sudbury. Order online for pickup at twigs.ca. And coming soon, you'll be able to order fresh roasted coffee beans direct to your doorstep from our distribution center in North Bay.
So today we're going back to the roots of this show, which is kind of twofold: Northern Ontario, but also very outdoor centric in general. And today we have two guests who are kind of like the embodiment of outdoors, I guess you could say, in a way. Both, I guess, social media influencers, you could also say. That's what the kids say, at least. We want to welcome in Jeff McGurr and Karina Alexis. Welcome to both of you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Good to be here.
It's glad to have these two. They're not yin and yang, by the way, Ben. I'm going back almost 3 years now to 2022 when we all got together, and we're going to talk about why we got together and how we got together. And this is kind of Karina is a social influencer, and so is Jeff in his own right. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so let's just start off kind of with we'll start off with you, Jeff, because I know you also work with Yamaha. So maybe is there some sort of connection, I guess, with your work life and I guess your personal passion for the outdoors?
Oh, there's definitely a connection between my work life and my passion for the outdoors. I'm, privileged to work for Yamaha Motor Canada and the great products across all 4 seasons that we offer. So, just really passionate about the entire industry, and we're going to learn a little bit today about the Explorer Snow Tour, and that was created long before my time at Yamaha Motor Canada. So been passionate about the outdoors, snowmobiling, motorsports, marine for my entire life. So it all kind of fits together here.
Yeah, actually, Jeff goes back to, I was tracing him back to 2016, 2017, when you were going to be I forget what the title, the Canada's most prestigious kind of snowmobiler. But Jeff, take us back to the day when you were the economic development director in the Bonfield, Mattawa area, and your duties and how this came about, because that's coming up to 10 years of age as well, about the trail, this thematic trail. And then we'll talk about how the three of us got together.
Yeah, so well over a decade ago, I had the privilege of leading the Mattawa Bonfield Economic Development Corporation. And this area, which I still reside in today, I don't know if you could ever get me to leave. It's just an absolute paradise for outdoor activities, and particularly for power sports activities. You've got the Voyager multi-use trail system, and an incredible network of snowmobile trails that are very rich in natural beauty, but also unique features. So I guess stepping back, we looked at the area and we said, "Hey, we've got something really special here. How do we create a product? How do we create something to share all these special assets with the world?"
Yeah, no, and again, it's one of the few thematic snowmobile trails in Ontario. And how did you get Karina to go for a snowmobile ride? Because at the time, she said in the article as well that I did during that time that wasn't something that was in her bivouac, so to speak.
Yeah, it's actually a longtime friend and partner through Destination Ontario, Claude Amont, who pointed towards Karina and said, here's a great opportunity to bring an influencer in who's an Ontario influencer with a massive global following of outdoor enthusiasts, and take these natural points of interest that we have on the snow tour, and showcase them to Karina. So yeah, that's how it all came about.
Yeah, and so Karina, over to you. We spent a few days going for a snowmobile drive with Jeff.
Yeah, that's right. That whole experience was absolutely amazing.
So tell us what you thought about it at the time. I remember we met at the Canadian Ecology Center. Jeff had set all this up, and we had snowmobiles, etc. But what are some of the impressions of those days we spent together?
Some of my impressions were, well, for one, I kind of grew up snowmobiling a little bit, so I anything that has to do with the outdoors and exploration is right up my alley. It's like one of my biggest passions, and so being able to traverse across like so many amazing points of interests that are really just amazing ways to get into the outdoors and see beautiful parts of nature around the Mattawa Bonfield area. That was just incredible. Like my first impressions, I was just blown away, and yeah, we had a lot of fun on that trip for sure.
We did indeed, and of course, some of my favorite shots, and Jeff will remember this. But Karina, at the Purdy Mica mine, and some of those ice shots. Karina, take us back there, and what you thought of that.
So, coming up to this like hole in the side of this little mountain I was like, no, there's no way. There's like cool stuff in there, and then when you guys took me around the back there and we went down this like crazy little slide that just basically slid you into this whole new world. And then, as soon as you got back there, there's all this like ice just kind of frozen in place and all the mica everywhere. Big, like crazy, like little icebergs basically. Yeah, just the history there like hit like crazy. And then once you go actually into the caves, into the mine, wow, it's actually terrifying in there.
Another stop along the way was a serendipitous stop when I showed you the bear claws on the tree as well. That was another one of my favorite shots, and of course that was all about Backroads Bill, just doing a little anecdotal stuff along the way. Jeff, tell us
That
about
was at Boulterview.
Yeah, that was at Boulterview.
Yeah, it was a beach. It was a beach tree that you found. Just off the trail there. Yeah.
Tell us, Jeff, about the stops along that trail, because you're an avid snowmobiler, and more than just avid. So tell us about the nature of the trail.
Yeah, it's a combination of a number of different trails in the area, maintained by 3 snowmobile clubs. So the Bonfield Snowmobile Club, Mattawa and Area Snowmobile Club, and the North Bay Snowmobile Club. So you've got 10 points of interest. You don't have to do them in order. You can do them in any order you want. You don't have to do them all in a day. A lot of snowmobilers will at 236 kilometers. It is something you can accomplish in a full day. But you can break it up into different segments if you wish. So, you've got everything from very, very historical and famous Explorers Point with Big Joe Mufferaw, downtown Mattawa. That's a sight to see and a great picture, to a hidden pioneer spring with cold, clear, artesian type well spring water that's pouring out of the ground even at -40. It runs all year, so some pretty cool things out there.
Yeah, and also, Karina, I remember we stopped at the Red Bridge Lookout, and that for that expansive view as well. And then we went to lunch. But tell us about some of your impressions about some of the stops along the way, as you recall.
Well, I think what hit me kind of the most was just, the expansive views that you're able to hit on like in essentially such a like kind of small amount of space, because it's not like we live in the Rockies or anything crazy like that. But the fact that this trail just brings you through all these crazy lookouts, it was just like incredible that we even have that here in Ontario, for one. And then the travel in between is super fun. The trails are just like super well maintained, and the route is just very, very well thought out. Thank you guys. You did a great job.
Well, Backroads Bill supplied some copy for those signs, Jeff, but you've been around across Canada snowmobiling. How does that trail compare to others? And again, we're talking about recreational snowmobiles, not some of the powder stuff that you do and take jumps in the air and things like that.
I can't think of too many places that I've been, both in the snow and off-road. I was just out in BC too a few weeks ago that has an opportunity for so much education. And Bill, you were talking about the copy, and that was really an important part of this. It's not just, hey, there's 10 points of interest and you can go and take a picture. At each point of interest, there's a large signboard for that point of interest that gives you a really, really good education-based description of why that location is there and why it's important. And Bill came up with all that. So yeah, it really opens your eyes, and it's a learning adventure. It really is.
Now, Karina, you know, at the time before Child, BC, I suppose, is that had you done many videos like that where, you're invited in and it was a multi-day kind of package put together, and of course a video came out of that? How did all that come about?
So I had done a trip with Destination Ontario prior to that, and it was kind of the same idea, but actually not really the same idea at all. It was very different. So essentially, they sent us to do all kinds of different winter activities. I guess the thing that correlates is like I do a lot of winter trips and things, so I'm very adept with handling winter weather and being able to dress warm enough to get out there and do these crazy activities. But yeah, I had done it in the past, and it was a hit, and we had a blast. And so yeah, when Destination Ontario approached me with doing the Explorers Snow Tour, being that I was already a big fan of snowmobiling and just wilderness travel in general, no matter how you get out there, I was very, very excited.
Yeah, and the first thing I reread the story I did, and the first thing I was reading through the first paragraphs, and I thought, oh, and she showed up on time and everything, because we've all been with people that have to take a lot of care of, and there was no caring for this information. She was ready to go, excited, and let's get on the sleds and get going. And so at the time I thought, oh, well, this is a real outdoor enthusiast. And I mean that using the word real in the truest sense of the word. So it worked out well from my perspective. And I don't know, Jeff, I guess you were happy with the product. Again, you were doing a different job then and doing exactly what you had to do is promote the area.
Yeah, very much so. But I think more importantly, when you're doing the project, Bill, you kind of hit on it. We had fun, and it was just kind of natural, and we went out and just enjoyed ourselves, and we filmed a video too, which was really neat. But we had fun, and I think that if you go check out the video, or even if you read the various articles, is that'll come through in it, and I think that's important. That's what this tour and being out there does to you.
Well, Ben produces a lot of social media type things for Clark Communications. Ben, I know you jump in with some questions because I know you want to know about that.
Well, the one thing that really kind of caught my attention was, so you're obviously well traveled across Canada, and not just you go from place to place, but you're also experienced the outdoors. And what I'm curious about is how do the different provinces, or even just different from Ontario, how are these outdoor experiences different across the nation?
Well, to be honest, I haven't actually been across Canada too much, but I have been kind of in the BC area, and it's very vastly different. Like the place I was in Kamloops one time, and the weather there is just absolutely completely different. There we don't have like a lot of the humidity that we have here, things like that actually change like kind of how you get outdoors, how you're dressing, how you're hydrating, things like that. Yeah, it's about all I can say about that.
No, that's fair for sure. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, still a tremendous amount of places that I need to go in this great country. But yeah, I kind of share the same sentiment as Karina. Is there's just so much to explore out there, and so many things to see. So we're just coast to coast. It's just so varied in what you can find.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things too, like when obviously part of that job is the social media side, the videography side. So when you're going out and you're doing these things, what I can say, like especially when I'm doing hosting or if I'm doing something and I'm also doing production, my mind's kind of split in half, right? Like one half you're saying, okay, I got to make sure I do this right, and you're thinking of all the technical side, and then the other half is I have to be present to have fun. So when you guys go out and shoot, do you have a crew, I would say, in air quotes, that helps you get there? Or do you have to really kind of balance the tech side with the, have fun and do the hosting content side?
My priority now is have fun, and the content will come. But priority is to have fun versus create content. I started a new thing. It's not widely popular a few years ago, called Cooking with Snow Bikes, where I cook food on my YZ450's exhaust and eat it in the wilderness. It's a little bit of a gimmick, but that's just me having fun. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, I would say that's a really great question, actually, and probably one of the most asked questions that I get personally, because so many people who do just go out and enjoy the outdoors, they don't have to worry about filming and stuff like that and getting the shot. I think where I benefit is that I love both. I love both aspects of it. I love getting out there. I obviously love the outdoors. I have a huge passion for it. But I also love like filmmaking, and I love the thought that goes behind like trying to get a really nice shot and making memories, but making them also visually pleasing.
It's such an interesting thing too, because I'm like always, maybe it's because I'm more of a sound person, so it's like you're always there. But how many times do you go into post-production and you go, oh, I messed that up, and then it becomes a pain in the butt trying to color or fix mistakes?
So many times. Yeah, that happens a lot, especially because like, yeah, at the end of the day, I'm still trying to just get out there and enjoy myself. So there are some missed shots and some bad audio.
It's always interesting because I think people don't, and we see it here, like, doing a podcast network where it's kind of chaos sometimes in the background, where it's like all these things are happening, or you go and you do something and something's not perfect, and then at the end of the day the product looks fine, but it's funny how many things in the background go wrong half the time. Even in the studio,
things that no one would ever notice.
Yeah, like even in the studio, like I had like lights randomly turn off because they're on like a smart plug, so I can control them remotely, and then they weren't randomly working. Now they work again. It's so weird. But yeah, it's I guess, what is the thing that you both have learned, I guess, from the social media side, especially now that it's become such a monetized thing, and it's become more of a of a job than a passion as an industry?
When things go wrong, they become widely popular, the content. To some degree,
That's
you know what I mean?
Why is that? It's not true.
Yeah.
Well, I always go back to like YouTube, like when it was fresh, and it's like it was so creative and interesting, and now it's so
Trendy.
yeah, and it's just so mainstream that it's like the same stuff all the time. It's just like even your like Jeff, what you were saying about the exhaust, that's awesome. And it's funny how like you said like it didn't really take off, but it's such a cool concept.
Yeah, it's delicious too.
Wait, do you cook like? Because I haven't seen this video. Do you cook it right on the exhaust, or do you use like a pan or?
No, I wrap it in tinfoil and cook it on the exhaust.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was going to judge you for a second, but we'll see. Bill, I'll throw it back to you.
Well, I was thinking too, Karina, and Jeff as well. I did the first story on Les Stroud before he became a Survivor Man. Actually, he was headed to do his snowshoe isolation with his wife Sue at the time in the Wabakimi Wilderness, and of course, after that, he became Survivor Man and working the cameras when you're solo. And so, Karina, in those situations, how that whole aspect of being present and having the cameras and those kinds of things. Tell us a little bit about your challenges when you have to do that.
Well, luckily on a snowmobile tour, I had my wonderful husband with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, every once in a while I get like one crew member to work with, but often I'm out there by myself filming, especially most things on my YouTube channel is just me. And the challenge that comes with that is particularly I do a lot of winter trips and the cold hands working the camera is pretty rough. But also like when I'm doing something, I have to get up, go adjust the camera, then come back, then go adjust the camera, then come back. So it's a lot of, up and down, and you waste a lot of time. That's probably the most the biggest downfall, I guess, is that you waste a ton of time just setting up the camera, getting the shots, adjusting the tripod. And I hope when people watch my videos that they don't think of that stuff. Some of them do. When I'm getting that walking away shot, I always never fails. I get that comment like, I want to see the part where you run back to the camera. It's like,
yeah, Jeff.
I can't be Les Stroud and just have a crew that does that.
Yeah, exactly. So Jeff, and your take on that, because you do a lot of GoPro stuff and use stills and those kinds of things. But I suppose sometimes do you ever have to redo the jumps or redo the whatever the experience is?
Yeah, over the years, definitely had to, try something again because we didn't capture the shot. Now I kind of, err on the side of go out and have fun. And if it happens, it happens. If you catch it on film, you catch it on film. And, there are the times, where you purposely go out and say, hey, I've got an idea. I want to capture something really special and or a story that's really special. And generally that's well mapped out as far as the shots that need to occur, and the timeline, et cetera, so that you can go out and be effective. As Karina was saying, it takes a lot of time to set up the gear. So, and you're in the outdoors, and if you're in the winter, cold and wind and snow, and the environment is a whole other challenge. So you really want to be effective with that time and really map out what your plan is. And we did that. We did that with the Explorer Snow Tour. Like we had in producing the video, we had a specific plan and how we were going to approach it. Because, remember the one morning, I think it was minus 25. And that camera gear does not like minus 25.
So we're going to take a quick break from Karina and Jeff. Still lots on the way, including the very important debate between BC and Ontario and their preferences. Of course, all of that on the way. But first, we are talking lots of outdoors in this podcast like we always do. And what better way to enjoy your next trip to your next adventure than in a Toyota, specifically from North Bay Toyota, who is one of today's sponsors and a big sponsor of not just the Backroads Bill podcast, but also the North Bay Echo Network. Lots of amazing deals happening right now, including amazing rates to lease a 2025 Tundra Double Cab SR 4-wheel drive so that you can experience ingenious levels of capability, technology, and refinement. Maybe a truck isn't the way you want to go. You want it to be in an SUV. I know that's what Bill says he loves to use. You can get some excellent lease rates on the 2024 Toyota RAV4 LE all-wheel drive. So the next time you're in the mood for a new car, especially with some of our harsh winters, consider going down to 640 McEwen or online at NorthBayEcho.ca for more details. It's time to Toyota at North Bay Toyota.
Sports aren't just what we do, they're who we are. Source for Sports North Bay is your advocate, your local support system, and your biggest fan. 1321 Fisher Street has grown from a place where knowledgeable experts can help you find exactly the gear you need, to the hotbed of team uniforms, apparel and fanwear, to a community stronghold for all the things that truly matter to you and your family's sports journey. We love helping you find your first pair of skates, as much as we relish supporting local leagues, teams, and athletes. Wherever your sports journey takes you, make sure you visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street so we can help you along your way.
Yeah, I remember those mornings, and I mean, I'm not much of a snowmobiler. I liked the tour because I get to see all the stops where I actually wrote some things about it. So it was good that way, and of course it was a perfect Backroads experience for me because a little bit out of my element, but nonetheless outside. Then I could really appreciate. And Jeff and Karina both know this about, the life of a snowmobiler and what they do, because I never have been in their heads, so to speak, on the trails. People ride hundreds of kilometers a day to get from A to B to C to D and so on and so forth.
You've never done that?
Well, I did it with them for sure. And
No,
I'm trying to think in my lifetime,
guess I never thought about
have
that.
I been on an epic snowmobile tour? I think short ones, short runs, but not like.
I don't think we ever talked about snowmobiling though.
Well, this is why they're on the show. Ben,
I don't.
as
Do you
well.
even have a snowmobile?
I did.
You
I had
did?
a
Okay.
a Yamaha Bravo, as Jeff well knows, and one of the vintage sled, so to speak, single cylinder, and goes anywhere for winter camping and the like. And I just got rid of it recently because I wasn't using it. So anyway, that was my taste of snowmobiling. But back to those particular days. Karina, before family, and you've kind of retooled a little bit, looking forward from what you did and what you're doing now. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I recently had a baby. Obviously, she's 2 months old. Thank you. And yeah, it's definitely been a change of pace, especially with getting outdoors. Especially that it's winter right now. I'm finding it tricky to kind of manage everything. But what I've essentially done, when I first started YouTube, I just started it with going out and having fun and recording it. And then inevitably, when you do that and you grow a bit of a following and people are now depending on you to keep putting out content, it becomes a job, really, it does. And I think over the years, I just lost the joy and I lost the creativity in it because it became such a job. So actually having a child now and, having to really adjust my pace and putting out content has just made me kind of appreciate going out and making simple videos once again. So I used to do a lot of overnighters, multi-day trips. And for the time being, until the little papoose gets a little bit older, I'm just out doing day trips and I'm out working on my skill building and, starting fires and just really, really digging in and getting back to those basics that made me fall in love with, being on YouTube and trying to inspire others to go and do this stuff and trying to get people outdoors, even if it's just for a day trip, even if it's all you can do. And even if you're just going out to make a coffee.
Well, that's your most recent one, Cowboy Coffee. Tell us about that one because that's about 10. That's fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I went out to do that video, this is where I was like, okay, I've got to rethink my content right now because there's not much that I can do multi-day wise. But I decided to just go back to basics like I used to. And I headed out into the woods, not very far from where I live. I'm very lucky that way. We have lots of wilderness where I live. And I just headed out and I was like, I'm going to make a coffee today. And I'm going to show people. And I've done Cowboy Coffee on my channel before, but I don't think I explained it quite as much as I did in this video. And yeah, a ton of people were like, what's cowboy coffee? That's so cool. And it's just, even that form of making coffee is just a very basic, simple. You don't need anything extra, just your kettle, your coffee, and some water, and a fire, of course. So, yeah.
Fire building. That's another thing we did on the one of the parts of the snowmobile tour back in the day. Jeff, you've got a young family, and how have some things changed for you?
Yeah, my son is 4 and my daughter is 9 months. So now immersing them in outdoor activities. My son's riding a dirt bike in the summertime and a little snowmobile in the winter, and that definitely changes how I'm recreating and where I'm going. It brings me more joy to see my son rip around than for me to go for a ride myself. So no, definitely love every moment of that and watching them grow up and just love being outside like we love being outside. So that's pretty special for sure. And the wonder of the outdoors is special in a child's eyes. It really is. It opens your eyes to really what's out there and how special it is.
Exactly, Ben.
Yeah, I think it's funny you say that, Jeff, because my nephew and niece are almost the same age, like as your kids. I think my nephew's 5 and my niece is like 1.5. And it's interesting when we go to our cottage with them, especially dealing with my nephew. He's in that stage where I think he fell into some snow and then his hand was covered in, like he had to take his glove off and he's like, my hand's cold. I'm like, just put the glove back on. So it's interesting seeing like how kids think about things, right? But what I was kind of interested in, well, this is a little bit more of a hardball question, but we were talking to Sean Flindle. I don't know if you know him, Jeff, from the...
I know Sean very well, yeah.
Yeah, so he was on Echo Essentials actually a couple of times, but he was recently on it, shameless plug, every Thursday at 2 p.m. And they were talking about the snowmobile trails, and one of the things he said last year, I want to get this right, I think he said they only had 7 days of snowmobile trails where it was actually open. And so
right.
What I was kind of curious is, this is kind of a twofold question, but the big thing is, I don't know how much you can speak about this on Yamaha's behalf, but in terms of the snowmobile trails and the way global warming's coming, the changing climate, how have you seen that? And I'm going to open this up to both of you, but how have you seen that affect your experiences in the outdoors over the past decade or so?
Yeah, like last winter, specifically here in Ontario, was just devastating for winter lovers, and it didn't matter where you were. Like you could be in Hearst or you could be North Bay or you could be in the Muskokas. It was just devastating, and it's also devastating economically for all the rural communities that depend on winter tourism. It's not just snowmobiling. We're talking ice fishing and snowshoeing and dog sledding and like skiing, right? It's everything winter. So it's definitely had an impact. Now we sit here today, it's the end of January, there's a few feet of snow on the ground. We've got the best ice that in this area, at least, that we've probably had in a decade. It looks like we're having a good old fashioned Canadian winter thus far. So here we are again. And I think people will come back to it. I think people will get involved again.
Yeah, for sure. Karina, what have you noticed, I guess, in the last few years in your time, especially with you shooting a lot of outdoor content?
Yeah, I've kind of noticed the same thing. Like, I also had a snowmobile, sold it because the area that I live in, like, it's just a gamble every year whether we're going to be able to get out or not. I think I got out one time last year in the trails. But yeah, like everyone was kind of experiencing the same thing. But for me and for like winter camping and things like that, I really love to see a lot of snow. And I know so many people are like, I don't know. I worked in construction along a lot in my past as well. And winter is just nothing but a headache for most people who have to work in it, which I totally get. I totally understand. But as far as like just missing out on these beautiful winters that we used to get with all this snow. Like I remember being a kid and just like all you did was go out and play in the snow. And it's really impacted like even children these days because there's just not enough snow for them to go out and enjoy typically. thankfully, like Jeff said, this year we're having a good year. But yeah, it definitely impacts it.
Yeah, Jeff, we're not going to talk about my winter prediction. Slightly off, and because
how is it off, Bill? Let us know.
Well, it's not completely off. We still have to wait for an early spring, but we haven't had much snow until now. But this has been as Jeff just said, a good old Canadian winter. And I see people really getting outside more because the snow it's not wet snow, it's good snow, so to speak, dry. And so we've had some nice weekends, to get out and do all those things. Had a cold period, but that's part of being winter. And I guess we don't want to lull ourselves into sleep about not having winters anymore at whatever latitude you're at. But looking ahead now, what can we expect, Jeff, from you, young family and things? And of course, you've got a full-time job with Yamaha Canada and have been in that position for a few years now. What can we expect from you as social media and things that you want to do and having fun in the great outdoors and actually having a media presence as well?
Yeah, well, I plan to continue with the annual winter forecast, Snowmobiler's winter forecast, and I would say thus far, out of more than a decade of doing it, I'm probably right about more things this year than I ever have been, which feels really good because we're off to a great start. Just like from a social media presence, from being out there. Really kind of want to focus more on quality experiences and quality content over a ton of content. My time to edit and go film is finite, so when I do have those moments to go film, I'm looking to make the best content that I can, or have a ton of fun, and maybe there's some content that comes along with it just naturally, i.e. cooking with snow bikes.
Karina.
Yes. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, to be honest. I just want to go out and, like I said, I'm taking things back to basics. I'm just going out there to enjoy myself again and just find that passion that I had, and that motivation and that ambition that I had at first. I'm just really digging in, trying to get back to that and just go out and have a good time and enjoy myself, and hopefully inspire others to do the same.
Well, I can just tell you both, and the listeners and the viewers, my next experience is going to get to Pewanak on Hudson Bay Coast and drive the longest winter ice road in the world through Pewanak to Fort Severn, back through to Manitoba, and that's what we're planning right now. But Ben, over to you.
That's awesome. Who are you going with? Are you going with Brian?
Yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Brian Emlin, friend of the show. He's been on the show, 4 times now, I think, or something like that.
And that trek actually in part has been done by mountain bikers, flat tire bikers as well. I saw some YouTube on that. So
how long is that?
Oh, I'm going to get the number of kilometers wrong. So it's like 1,200 or something.
That's a lot to bike.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't think they did the whole thing. I think they just went to Fort Severn. But the terminus is Pewanak, and then you have to go kind of northwest, and then come up to Fort Severn. And of course, we went to the most northern point in Ontario on ATVs, Nunavut, Manitoba, Ontario, a few years back, and saw all of the polar bears. So talking to these two people inspire me, actually. It's like, again, stories I've written, like meeting Adam Schultz, who's been on the program, meeting your heroes. And both these people are my heroes. And being with them in that time told me that they're doing the right thing. I'm older, not old, but they're younger, and they're producing things that people want to look at, and I really, and in the outdoors. And for me, there's no better formula than that.
Absolutely. Okay, so as we wrap things up, one last question for you guys. What is the bucket list experience adventure that you have not yet been on, but you want to go on?
I just did it. So yeah, I ticked a major one off. I went out to British Columbia, Sicamous, spent 5 days riding in the mountains on snow bikes, so dirt bikes with track kits, with a good buddy of mine, Justin from Northland Trailer Sales in Sudbury. Met some awesome people out in BC, some local riders, and can't wait to go back. It's my 40th birthday present to myself, and I think I'm going to have to give that birthday present to myself every single year now. It's such a wicked experience. I don't know why I waited so long to go and do it, but Yeah, that was one. Looking forward, definitely. Now that my son's kind of reaching the age where he can go out and do some more adventurous outdoor activities, yeah, camping in Algonquin Park and fishing and things like that with him are definitely bucket list things that I got planned.
Yeah, I'm thinking like there's just so much that I haven't done yet that I really want to do. I think a lot of it is experiencing more of Canada. I want to go like to the East Coast. I've never been,
Oh, the East
and
Coast is
like I've been
amazing.
out. Yeah, like I've been out west, and I loved it, and I didn't do nearly enough of it. So I definitely want to go back there again. But yeah, East Coast Canada. Speaking of like inspiring others through my content, I get inspired by other people. And I met a really cool couple from Newfoundland, and they live in the States right now, but they've done a lot of their helicopter people. He's a helicopter pilot, and they do like heli camping trips across wherever they end up going. And they're just the coolest people ever. So I've been so inspired by, they've made some content about going back home, going back to Newfoundland, and yeah, that I realized that that's definitely a part that I want to see. And then just like Jeff, I want to bring out my, our new little baby and get her started in the outdoors. That's like a big focus of mine as well.
Yeah, and I've been out west when I was very young, and honestly, like some of the things, like the Bay of Fundy's and like a really cool place to go to, just from a geological standpoint, to be able to stand in there when like the tide's low and you get to see everything. Don't drink ocean water; that's a bad time because it's very salty. I had just one more question popped up. So a lot of people talk about British Columbia. They talk about how beautiful it is, the mountain ranges. Like it's kind of the it's the eye candy, right? When you see it on in videos or in pictures. But then we also have Ontario, which is also in its own right a bit of a different beast. But it's also like, even when we think about North Bay, we think about like as you said, Karina, when you came up here, it's like all these things you could do in a small area. And so for the people who live here versus BC, is there a preference, or which one do you prefer?
Oh, I prefer Ontario 100%. I wouldn't
Why?
move anywhere. We have such a, well, for number one, I love canoe tripping as well. And that's something you will not find almost anywhere else. Like I think Sweden kind of has similar lake systems like we do, but anywhere else in the world, like we have the best, absolute best canoe routes. Like this is where voyageurs, thrived. And so yeah, that part of being here in Ontario is the part that I love the most. And also we do have a very diverse, I guess, range of places you can go that are just different. Like I said, on the snow tour, we saw a lot of vast outlooks, and it was just absolutely incredible. But then, you get deep into Temagami or Algonquin Park, and it's just a completely different site. There's different trees, there's different animals. Like yeah, we just live in an incredible place.
Absolutely, Jeff.
Yeah, I share the same sentiment as Karina. Ontario is such a cool place. There's so much diversity, and I think of I'm thinking like BC. You immediately think mountains, right? I can think about mountains in Ontario too. Like drive between Sault Ste. Marie and Wawa and go explore Lake Superior Provincial Park, and it'll blow you away. Or go boating on Lake Temagami, and it's just this absolute gem. Or out to the Manitous on Lake Nipissing, and you're on this inland sea. It's just there's just so much to do here, and there's everything is so varied in Ontario. You know, I hardwood forests, right, with gigantic maples and oak trees. Like it's being in a forest like that. Whether it's summer, winter, or any season for that matter, it's pretty special. It's pretty cool to see, and look up and look around you.
I've traveled the world extensively, and of course across Canada, and had lots of adventures. And I don't think I've talked about my Greenland adventure on the podcast, but might do that someday. But diversity is the key word, and I guess as for Backroads Bill, my whole lifetime has been in Northern Ontario, and I don't know. It's not because maybe we grew up here, but it's just that every time there's a new experience and the geography changes when you go there. So it's been a great day to relive, the Explorer Snow Tour of 3 years back with these two social influences, and we couldn't have had any better people to talk about why you should go outside in the great outdoors.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff and Karina, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Well, big thank you to Karina and Jeff for joining us this week. Lots of great insight from people who not just have lived the experiences, but they've captured it. And they've created basically either, in Karina's case, a full job, or with Jeff, a secondary part of income, which is just fantastic to be able to turn your passion into into a money-making stream of income, which is always great. So thank you again for both of those guests coming on. It was absolutely fantastic. Some great stories, and maybe I'll join them the next time they decide to go on that big snowmobile trek. I'll talk to Bill. We'll see what happens. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can find new episodes of the Backroads Bill podcast every single Wednesday morning. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Hit that like button, comment, follow, all of that good stuff. Leave us a review, because all that stuff helps us to grow. And also make sure you do not miss any new episodes. And we have some absolutely fantastic episodes that are incoming. We've also had some great past ones. In case this is the first time you're listening, we just had Stan Sudel on, who was talking Ring of Fire, which was a big topic, just got approved literally the night before we launched the podcast. But it's a great, interesting insight in some of the political battles and kind of what's going on with Trump. Also, we talked to Wob Rice, who's a very well-known author. Very interesting podcast that we had with him. Amazing guy. You can check those out. Those were the last couple of weeks, and we still have a lot more on the way. So a lot of big things. It's a big year for us here at the Backroads Bill podcast. So make sure to follow so you don't miss anything. And of course, you can always find us on NorthBayEcho.ca. We are also on every platform that most people go to. If you want to listen to us on the go, Apple, Spotify. If you want to see the video version, we are available on YouTube and, of course, on our website, NorthBayEcho.ca. And, of course, we also have everything in a nice place that you can go listen to everything. So that wraps things up here for us. Don't forget to join us again next Wednesday, as always, for another Backroads adventure.